the Sportsocracy.
A-plus mock draft time for the Baltimore Ravens. Stephen Tao, sit tight. Jeremy's going to give you a 20-pack of picks here that is exciting.
It's
Baltimore's got a lot of picks.
They got a lot of picks.
And a bunch of late ones.
So Baltimore's a fun team for me to mock draft because I can literally run through the simulator, just look at the names on the board, and go, which name is it going to piss me off when they draft him? And I do that on every pick. This is probably my favorite class in the draft in these A-plus mocks.
Wow, better than the Jets. This will be a good one. All right, here we go. Number 27.
I believe they need an edge rusher. I believe they need somebody that can come in and play right away. And Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College fell right in their lap. I don't think he gets the love he deserves because of where he played and who he played against.
Mm-hmm.
He had 17 sacks in the ACC. I think he'd had 16 in the SEC. This kid just wins over and over and over and over again. He's a little bit undersized in that I don't really think his best spot is with his hand in the dirt outside of maybe a wide 9 or in just designated pass rushing situations. But I think he's a 3-down outside linebacker because he does hold up against the run. Then you get into the arsenal of pass rush moves. It's probably the best in this class. I would say his arsenal of moves are better than Abdul Carter's. He's not as freakishly athletically gifted. And don't get me wrong, he's a great athlete. Abdul Carter's not of this earth. That's what puts Carter at 2. I think 27 is too low for Ezeraku. I have him at, he is overall like my 12. I think he's
12 overall? Okay.
Yes.
Wow. All right.
I didn't have him that high. 16. Sorry.
I've seen several prognosticators try to put him at 23 with Jeff Hafley in Green Bay. So he may not be on the board here, but if he is, can't go wrong.
If he is, you sprint. You don't walk that pick to the podium.
Right. Let's go to the second round at 59. Who the Ravens take there?
So my biggest needs for Baltimore coming into this were, and they really have no red needs. Reds are my most pressing. Yellow is need to address one of the 3 days. Green is it would be nice. They have 4 yellows and 3 reds. Or 3 greens, excuse me. Okay. Colorblind. It's always fun to be colorblind. Ezeraku takes care of the edge rusher. Wide receiver, corner, and 5-tech are the next 3 picks, which were their other 3 yellow needs. So wide receiver, you got to have an X. You have to have somebody that can play on the outside because you've got Zay Flowers that is better in the slot. I need somebody that can win over the top. It's Trey Harris.
From Ole Miss.
I get it. He doesn't have the crazy height, weight, speed. He's only 6'2". He doesn't run the blindingly fast 40. I think he ran a 4.54. But he gets open. And he gets open deep. He's really good at the point of the catch. And I just look at him as a guy that, if you watch him at Ole Miss, one of the things I notice about him is he never stops. Something that drives me nuts in receiver tape is that the route runs its course and the receiver just kind of slows down to a crawl and doesn't really do anything. Trey Harris does not do that. He was a quarterback. He has quarterback eyes, and it really shows, especially when you have a quarterback that bails out of the pocket. I saw this obviously with Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. When Dart would bail out of the pocket, because there were times he bailed out really without any intention of what he was going to do, Trey Harris just never stops moving. And you catch a safety that if he starts looking in the backfield or he's got 1/10 of a second of indecision, Trey Harris just smokes him.
They've long needed another wide receiver. Hopefully this is the answer.
I think it would be, for sure.
91 in the third round. What need do they address there?
That's where I go get them another corner. I think you really figured something out with Marlon Humphrey in the slot last year. I'll give you that Nate Wiggins deserves to be one of your starters based off what he did last year, in spite of the fact
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. But you still kind of have a hole at that other cornerback spot. For what Baltimore does, that requires a very specific kind of corner. They have Chidobe Awuzie for a year. He is 30 years old, so I don't think it's a long-term solution. So Noel Williams, corner out of Cal, he
Mm-hmm.
can play off balls or off zone. He's really good in press man. One of the best press man corners in this class. Hyper aggressive, big body frame. I just think it's he played at Cal, and people think he was playing with children. Because in the ACC, you did not have a ton of high-level receivers. And if you don't believe me, run down the list of receivers and see how long it takes for you to get to 3 ACC guys.
It's going to be here. You're going to be here a while.
Let's put it this way. Outside of Virginia Tech, who had a few, you had Ayumanner from Stanford. That's the only one that's in the top 5 rounds for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech's in 5 for me. And then you got to get the other Virginia Tech receiver whose name is eluding me at the moment. That's the third one.
Okay.
I have an undrafted grade on him. Daquan Felton.
Yeah. So it didn't
Yeah,
really,
that's the third receiver from the ACC. And
So it
he's
didn't
my
really-
number 308.
didn't really have a chance to sharpen the iron
Exactly.
as a cornerback.
So people watch the tape and go, oh, he was doing this against lesser competition. Was he, though? Or is he just that good? I
Yeah.
think he's just that good.
129 is the next pick.
We go back to the ACC well with a 5-tech. So that's the end in a 3-man front. Elijah Roberts from SMU. Kid started at Miami, didn't really do much, but then showed his pass rush chops at SMU. And I look at him in that front with Baltimore. Just the thought of putting him with Ezeraku behind him. You've got Kyle Van Noy. You've still got Odafe Owa. You got Justin Madubuike on the other side. Oh, by the way, in the middle of this defense, you still got Travis Jones, who to this day might be the most athletic defensive tackle I've ever graded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that defense is getting scarier and scarier and scarier by the minute.
You got a second pick in the 4th round here at 136.
It almost feels unfair, doesn't it? It just feels like Baltimore always has 7 picks in the top 180. And it just seems like somebody falls right in their lap that I love every single time they pick.
Yep.
Holland Pierce from Rutgers. I need a young offensive tackle with the intention of taking over for Ronnie Stanley. Holland Pierce was a walk-on at Rutgers, showed up gigantic, almost 470 pounds, whittled it down. The tape gets better and better and better. The kid just works his keister off. And I think if you're willing to give him 2 years, which with the deal that Ronnie Stanley just signed, you have 2 years, that could be your left tackle of the future. But you are going to have to work with him because he is the tape on him shows a guy that used to be bigger than he is because he leans a lot and he really tries to use his weight. And it's not like he's a light guy at this point. He's 336 pounds if I remember correctly. He's still a BDD.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not as much of a BDD as he was. Now he's got to learn to use his feet, really improve the technique, and with time, I think he could do that in Baltimore.
Another comp pick, this one in the 5th round, though. They got to wait a while as they traded away their 5th round pick to the Carolina Panthers. So 176, the last pick in the 5th round, is their next selection. What's Baltimore do there?
I'm sure somebody's wondering, hey, but why have you not taken a guard? Well, because guard is funny in this draft. If you don't get one really early, I'm going to start taking shots on guys later, and I took 2 of them back-to-back here. At 176, I went Jackson Slater, the guard out of Sacramento State. 183, I went Emory Jones Jr., the guard from LSU. 2 completely different guys. Slater may be able to play center as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. but there's a possibility of that. Emory Jones is just a tank. Jones is a tank. Slater's more the move guard. I have higher than they were selected grades on both. And I think if you're, that's kind of like Holland Pierce. If you can give them a year, Slater's got a huge jump in competition. Emory Jones is bounced between guard and tackle. He's going to really have to learn to play guard. But what I saw at the Senior Bowl, he's going to be a really good guard in this league. And he just wants to fight everybody.
Nice. 176 and 183 are both guards. Let's hit the 4 picks they have in the 200s, starting with 203.
So 203, I'm always a big fan of using your local scouts because you have better eyes on guys that play at schools that are around you because it's just easier. You're able to make local visits. So I take a Maryland Terrapin here. I considered his Terrapin friend, Caden Prather, but here I go Ty Felton. It's funny to me that Maryland had as much talent as they did, and they weren't any better than they were. But Felton strikes me as a player that could come into the league. He's super far from refined at this point, but I think there's a lot of juice there. He's only 6'2". Contested catch rate's really low. Drop rate's about average, but he was really successful against man. I think there's a possibility this kid could play out on the outside. And I think there was an injury with him this past year. He started last year with his hair on fire. UConn, Michigan State, Virginia, and Villanova. That was his 4 best games of the year. He never had another one after that was even in the ballpark. I think he had an injury and would be of value because he's been pushed down the board.
All right, that was 203. Let's go 210.
Jay Higgins from Iowa. We've talked about him a decent amount, that the long speed's not there, but you put him next to Roquan Smith. You know I do not love Simpson, the linebacker they got from Clemson. I never really figured out where he was going to play. I still think he's just Trenton Simpson's his name. Couldn't think of his first name to save my life. I still think he's going to be, in large part, just a sub linebacker. So you put Higgins with him. Higgins is out of this world good in coverage. Not great against the run, though. 212's right. Malik Verdon, gigantic safety from Iowa State. Absolute thumper. He and Kyle Hamilton are built exactly the same. Verdon is way faster, but doesn't have nearly the instincts or the ball hawk ability that Kyle Hamilton does. But he is still one of those guys that you put him on special teams, he's not going to be fun. You see a 6'4" dude that can run like that, that's just screaming down the field at you. Pretty good.
Yep. 243, 7th round.
One of Tank's favorite names in the draft, Efton Chisholm out of Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington. They had him in for a top 30 visit. I think he's definitely a player I could see winding up with the Baltimore Ravens. He would be a second slot because he can't really play on the outside, but he's so crafty in the way that he runs routes. Not the most athletic catch you've ever seen, but really good route runner.
Efton in the slot.
Whew. Baltimore, could we have less picks next year?
No, that's what they do. Just get the picks and see what DeCastro and company can do with them. Baltimore
is always when I do their mock, by the end of it, I am exhausted because they always have 7 picks in day 2 or day 3 now, excuse me.
You're in the Sportsocracy. This is ESPN Asheville, 92.9 FM, 880 AM, and 1400 A+ mock draft for the Baltimore Ravens. We switch now. Conferences. The NFC North. A+ mock drafts are coming up next.
I get knocked down, I get back up. The Sportsocracy